Please tell me he's breathing. In the Gilded Age. Season 3, Episode 7, Everything is about to collapse. George Russell has been shot, and the world of the Gilded Age will never be the same. As we head into the finale of Season 3, secrets are unraveling, families are breaking, and new forces are rising to take power. The very foundations of New York's elite are trembling. Was this the end for George Russell, or just the beginning of a new war for control? Betrayal is closing in from all sides. One by one, the Russells' allies are vanishing, and the vultures are circling. If you thought Season 3 was dramatic before, Episode 8 will absolutely destroy you. Here's what's coming, what's already been set in motion, and why the Gilded Age will never be the same again. George Russell, the man who built his empire with ruthless precision, now lies at the center of a mystery that threatens to bring everything crashing down. The attack was no accident. It wasn't a robbery. It was personal. George's secretary was taken out first, a deliberate move to clear the path. Then the bullet was aimed straight at George, and now New York is holding its breath. Did he survive? If George dies in Episode 8, the consequences will be catastrophic. The business world will descend into chaos, his railroad empire fractured, his copper mines vulnerable, and every rival he's crushed will come clawing back for vengeance. Bertha, left without her husband, would be forced to hold the empire together while shielding her children from a city that smells blood. She's never been more powerful, but she's also never been more alone. If George survives but is left incapacitated, a new kind of instability takes root, one that makes the family appear weak. This is when enemies strike. Even if he pulls through, George might never be the same. The once untouchable Titan could now be seen as vulnerable. That's dangerous in a world where power is everything. Every decision he's made, every enemy he's made, Clay, rival railroad kings, corrupt politicians, they all have reason to finish what was started. And as George lies bleeding, one thing becomes terrifyingly clear. This wasn't a one-time attack. This was a message. Someone wants the Russells gone permanently. And what about the implications for the family? Larry has long lived in his father's shadow, eager to prove he's more than just an heir. But if George falls, Larry must rise. That's not a transition, it's a transformation. Larry would have to leave behind the artist's world he once dreamed of and become the new Russell patriarch. And the timing couldn't be worse. His romance with Marion has shattered over a misunderstanding. And now heartbreak and loss threaten to crush his spirit before he ever steps into his father's shoes. If George is alive but critically injured, Larry may have no choice but to take over immediately, his emotions buried beneath the weight of responsibility. Bertha, meanwhile, is staring down the ultimate test of her will. She clawed her way to the top of society, dethroning Mrs. Astor and controlling the Newport Ball. But how does she keep her grip on power when her family is falling apart? A widow, or a woman on the edge of becoming one, may be pitied in public, but she is hunted in private. Everyone will test her strength. And if Bertha missteps once, the entire Russell legacy could be devoured by those waiting in the shadows. What happens next? Whether George's death, survival, or something in between, will send a ripple through every storyline. The ball, the railroad, the family, even society itself. Nothing will be untouched. Who pulled the trigger? That question will dominate every scene in Episode 8, not just because of the mystery, but because of what the answer could mean. The attempt on George Russell's life wasn't just about revenge. It was strategic, calculated, and meant to send a message. And the deeper you look, the more suspects emerge from the shadows. The most obvious name on everyone's lips is Clay, the disgraced broker George personally crushed not long ago. Humiliated, furious, and stripped of everything, Clay didn't go quietly. His final words to George, likening himself to a cockroach that can't be killed, sounded like a threat at the time. Now they feel like a prophecy. Clay had access, motive, and the kind of desperate rage that doesn't just fade away. He may not have pulled the trigger himself, but if he didn't, he may have arranged it. And with nothing left to lose, he'd stop at nothing to see George ruined. But Clay might be just one piece of a much larger plan. George didn't build his empire in peace. Every victory he claimed came at someone else's expense. Rival railroad magnates have watched George climb higher and higher. His acquisition of Merrick's shares, his copper mine success, his plans to electrify the city. And now they're backed into a corner. His dominance in the market has left them scrambling, and some may see assassination not as a crime, But as business, taking George out of the equation could reopen negotiations, derail deals, and allow weaker competitors to regain power. And if the attack was funded or organized by one of them, it means the Russells aren't just facing one enemy, they're facing a coalition. An invisible alliance of bitter rivals could now be working behind the scenes to pull every string. And they've already made their first move. But it doesn't stop there. Politics and corruption are deeply woven into George's world. His involvement in the electrification of New York, especially his support of Edison's Pearl Street development, has made him dangerous to certain factions. Some city officials, backroom politicians, and old money influencers fear the progress George represents. He's not just changing how people live, he's changing who holds the power, and that shift terrifies them. Killing George could be a way to preserve their control, to stop the future from taking root. If these forces are involved, the conspiracy could go deeper than anyone imagined. Episode 8 may reveal hints, strange conversations, missing paperwork, sudden disappearances. The truth may be hiding in plain sight. Then there is the most chilling possibility of all, a social rival, someone embedded in the world of wealth and manners but seething beneath the surface. Bertha Russell has made enemies from the moment she challenged Mrs. Astor and disrupted the social hierarchy. She became a threat to old money. Her rise has embarrassed the very people who once looked down on her. Could someone from that world, a society matron, a powerful widow, a snubbed debutante's mother, have orchestrated the attack? Not out of profit, but pride. If George's fall is meant to humiliate Bertha, the danger she's facing is even more personal than she realizes. In the Gilded Age of masks and manners, betrayal wears gloves and smiles. The final blow could come not from the business world, but from a ballroom. This kind of attack doesn't exist in isolation. The fallout will infect everything. Business partners will retreat in fear, investors will panic, journalists will swarm the scene, hungry for scandal, and worst of all, trust within the Russell circle may begin to crack. What if someone on the inside gave away George's routine? What if a servant was bribed, or worse, convinced they were doing the right thing? Once paranoia takes root, it's nearly impossible to pull it out. Bertha might begin questioning everyone, her allies, her staff, even her own children. That kind of fear poisons everything it touches. The real threat isn't just the person who fired the gun, it's the web of people who allowed it to happen. And in episode 8, that web might begin to unravel. One by one, the secrets will spill, and when they do, the Russells won't just be defending their fortune, they'll be fighting for survival. The attack on George was a declaration of war. And whether Bertha is ready or not, the battlefield is already set. What comes next will test every ounce of strength they have, because power, once threatened, doesn't rest. It strikes back. While the Russell Empire teeters on the edge of collapse, another war is quietly raging, one of love, loyalty, and identity. At the center of it is Larry Russell, now standing at a terrifying crossroads. His father's fate hangs in the balance. His mother is preparing to either ascend or fall, and the weight of responsibility has begun to crush him. But even before the gunshot, Larry was already losing something precious. Marion. Their relationship unraveled over a misunderstanding sparked by rumors of his presence at the Haymarket Club. Marion believed he had betrayed her trust, believing whispers instead of truth. But now, with Jack, the ambitious footman inventor, vouching for Larry's character, everything is shifting again. What if she was wrong? What if she let go of the one man who actually valued her heart more than her name? Episode 8 could bring a turning point not just for Larry as a future patriarch, but for Larry as a man standing on the edge of heartbreak. If George dies, or even if he barely survives, Larry will no longer be just a son. He becomes the head of the family. That transition is violent, not because of blood, but because of burden. He would need to silence his pain, abandon the freedom he once enjoyed, and step into a role he's never truly been prepared for. And Marion, with all her hopes for a life built on mutual respect and personal choice, might either be his anchor or the final blow to his spirit. If she realizes the truth, if she sees the honesty in his pain, she might return, not just with an apology, but with resolve, a secret engagement, A bold public declaration, or something even more dangerous, a quiet vow to defy their worlds for each other. But this is the Gilded Age, and nothing stays pure for long. The pressures of society, Bertha's ambitions, and the trauma of George's collapse may pull them apart again. Perhaps not because they don't love each other, but because love alone isn't enough when war is raging around you. Their future is hanging by a thread, and that thread may snap. Meanwhile, Oscar Van Ryn is unraveling. The death of John Adams didn't just break his heart, it shattered his entire facade. For years, Oscar has lived a lie, hiding behind charm, arrogance, and the comfort of privilege. But losing John stripped away the final layer of protection. Now he stands exposed, emotionally, spiritually, dangerously vulnerable. And the question looming over episode 8 is, will Oscar finally stop hiding? Marion already suspects the truth. She's seen the cracks, felt the sorrow, and if anyone can coax Oscar into honesty, it's her. But the bigger confrontation lies ahead with Agnes, the matriarch of old New York values. Agnes has ruled her family with iron certainty. Her disdain for scandal, for deviation, for weakness has defined her relationship with Oscar. And now Oscar must choose. Does he live for her approval or for his truth? If he tells her the truth, her reaction could fracture everything. Acceptance is possible, but unlikely. More probable is a rupture that could shake their family tree to its roots, and Oscar knows it. That fear has kept him silent, but silence is its own kind of death. And in episode 8, we might witness Oscar's awakening. Maybe not with fanfare, maybe not with applause, but in a quiet moment of resolve, a decision to stop living a life that isn't his. That bravery could redefine him, not as the flirtatious dandy, but as a man reclaiming himself. And if Agnes cannot accept him, perhaps that rejection will be what finally breaks the chains of the Van Ryn legacy and frees Oscar to live on his terms. But this emotional turmoil doesn't exist in a vacuum. Love in the Gilded Age is never just about affection. It's about politics, power, and reputation. Marion, Larry, Oscar, each of them is navigating a world that weaponizes love. Their choices echo into social circles, financial decisions, even public events like Bertha's grand Newport ball. And that's what makes their stories so dangerous. One wrong step, one moment of truth spoken too loudly, and everything collapses. If Larry chooses love over legacy, he risks being seen as weak in the eyes of business rivals. If Marion chooses him back, she may be ousted from her fragile position in society. If Oscar comes out, he may lose his family, his name, and the only shield he's ever known. But they're not just fighting for themselves. They're fighting against the very structure of the world they were born into. They're challenging the idea that love must bow to power. And in episode 8, we may see that struggle rise to a fever pitch. Quiet rooms will echo with confessions, letters will be burned or delivered. Eyes will meet across crowded rooms not with lust, but with longing, fear, and the desperate hope that somehow love will survive the storm. And just like the political and financial chaos surrounding George's shooting, these romantic entanglements are setting the stage for season 4. Because once truth escapes, it cannot be silenced. And whether it's Larry reclaiming his love, Oscar embracing his truth, or Marion choosing independence over safety, the world of the Gilded Age is about to be rewritten, not just by bullets and betrayals, but by hearts refusing to break quietly. While bullets and heartbreak threaten to tear the Russell family apart, Bertha Russell faces the most dangerous game of all: public perception. For 3 seasons, she has fought, manipulated, and maneuvered her way into the very core of New York's high society. And now, just as she's poised to solidify her reign with the grandest ball of the year, everything hangs in the balance. The Newport ball, once a stage for her triumph, may now become a battlefield for her survival. With George possibly dead or clinging to life in secret, Bertha must make a choice no woman should ever face: mourn her husband in silence and withdraw from society, or put on her finest gown, smile through the pain, and host the event of the decade alone. The stakes couldn't be higher. If she cancels the ball, she risks appearing weak. The sharks will smell blood in the water. Rivals like Mrs. Astor may reclaim power, and whispers will begin that Bertha's moment is over. But if she goes through with it, she faces another danger entirely: appearing cold, calculating, even heartless. The wrong choice could ruin everything. But Bertha Russell has never been a woman to fold under pressure, and episode 8 could show her most daring move yet, turning the ball into a tribute. A night not of mourning, but of resolve, a declaration that the Russell name will not fall no matter what. She might spin the tragedy into strength, using it to garner sympathy while still seizing control. Guests expecting scandal may instead be confronted with a woman more powerful than ever, commanding the room not with tears, but with steel. Every detail of the ball could become a strategic statement: the guest list, the decor, even the music. Everything calculated to remind New York that while a man may be gone, his empire is not. But nothing in the Gilded Age is that simple, because no matter how polished the surface appears, chaos is always waiting beneath. A scandal could erupt mid-ball. The return of Miss Ainsley, disgraced and vengeful, would be the perfect spark. Dismissed for leaking tabloid stories, she now has every reason to destroy Bertha's image. And she might not come alone. If she's aligned herself with another social rival, or worse, someone involved in George's attack, her appearance could detonate secrets that have been hidden for months. What if she possesses knowledge of George's business deals? What if she knows Clay's whereabouts? Or has a letter, a document, or a witness that could implicate someone close to the Russells in the conspiracy? A single whispered revelation could turn the ball into a bloodbath, socially, financially, emotionally. Bertha, for all her strength, is still human. Behind the diamonds and the silk lies a woman who built her world with her husband. Without him, everything feels unfamiliar, lonelier. The glances from other guests, the tight smiles, the hands patting hers with fake sympathy, they may all be daggers in disguise. Bertha knows she's being watched. Every move, every word will be dissected by the society she fought so hard to join. Even her children are part of this spectacle. Larry, perhaps too broken to smile. Gladys, a wild card who may return to New York in the middle of the storm. Or not at all. Gladys's storyline is especially explosive. In England, she has been thriving, finally breathing free from her mother's suffocating expectations. Rumors have already begun swirling about her bond with the Duke of Buckingham. Could episode 8 end with Gladys announcing her engagement, not to a suitor of Bertha's choosing, but to a man of her own heart, blindsiding her mother and igniting a new social firestorm? Or worse, she may refuse to return to New York at all, abandoning her mother in the moment of greatest need. Imagine Bertha preparing for the ball, expecting her daughter's support, only to find out that Gladys has chosen independence over duty. This fracture could mark the beginning of a whole new power struggle, not between Bertha and society, but within her own family. Or perhaps, in the most dramatic twist of all, Gladys returns in secret, finding her family in crisis, her father potentially dead, her mother teetering, and the entire Russell dynasty trembling. Forced to grow up overnight, she may step into a role no one expected of her. The runaway Duchess could become the next Queen of New York, her choices setting the tone for Season 4. Whatever path she chooses, Gladys's arc is no longer just about marriage. It's about power, identity, and the kind of strength that comes not from parties and pearls, but from pain. And yet, through all this, Bertha must keep her composure. She must smile, dance, toast. She must thank guests, deflect gossip, and reassure allies that everything is fine, even as her world cracks underneath her heels. And the question remains, who is the new threat waiting in the wings? Because while Bertha fights to hold on to her kingdom, someone else is watching. Someone new, a rising family, a mysterious industrialist, a foreign investor, someone with charm, ambition, and a thirst for power. Episode 8 may drop only a hint, a face at the edge of a crowd, a name whispered once, but it'll be enough to change everything. The ball isn't just a party. It's a war zone wrapped in chandeliers, and Bertha Russell, whether she knows it or not, is going into battle alone.